Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing a Dogmatika deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this for you guys because this deck is an extremely powerful deck that can actually get rid of half your opponent's X deck with a single boss monster, which is absolutely insane. This deck has been getting some amazing support recently, so without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like in your name description in a single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your Patreon. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're playing 2 copies of Dogmatika Albazoa. This card is a crazy powerful boss monster that actually gives you some blanket protections, which is really cool. The Dogmatika monsters that you control are unaffected by your opponent's Fusion, Synchro, Exy, and Link monsters' activated effects, which is such a cool effect for this card to have. And during your main phase, you can make your opponent choose one of these 2 effects to activate. Then for every 2 cards in your X deck, you send 1 card from your hand or X deck to the graveyard, which is crazy powerful that it can actually make your opponent get rid of half of their X deck, or return all Fusion, Synchro, Exy, and Link monsters that you can control back to the X deck, which is just such a cool effect that you can deal with your opponent's entire board with this effect. I love that effect about this card that they get to pick, but it's just such a powerful boss monster coming out at 4,000. We then play a single copy of White Knight of Dogmatika. This card is really good as a one of that because it can get absolutely massive, but you only need a single copy of this card in the deck. We then play a single copy of White Relic of Dogmatika. This card is really cool in the deck and helps you OTK your opponent extremely easily, because if this card is Ritual Summon, you can target 2 face-up monsters on the field and make one of those monsters gain attack equal to the other's attack, which is just really cool to be able to use with this card. And level 8 or higher Dogmatika monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle, giving you more blanket protection for your monsters, which is just super cool. And if a monster is special summoned from your opponent's X deck, except during the damage step, you can look at your opponent's X deck and send a monster from it to the graveyard, so you can actually get rid of key pieces that your opponent might need with this card. We then play 3 copies of Ecclesia. This card is basically the Stratos for the deck, that if there's a monster special summon from the X deck on your side of the field, you can special summon this card from your hand to your side of the field, and if it's normal or special summon, you get to add a Dogmatika card from your deck to your hand, which is a great effect for this card to have. I absolutely love this card as a 3 of in the build. We then play a single copy of Fleur-de-Lis. Fleur-de-Lis is great as a hand trap to be able to use as a negate, and works extremely well with the card we're playing later on in the deck. But this card is great in this particular build because you can actually special summon this card from your hand and also make your Dogmatika monsters go up by 500 attack points, which is really good to help you OTK your opponent. We then play 2 copies of Maximus, which is actually Albazoa before he turned into Albazoa, which is just really amazing. This card is easy to put on your side of the field that you can banish a Fusion, Synchro, Exy, or Link monster from your graveyard to special summon this card from your hand, and during your main phase, you can activate this effect to send 2 monsters with different names from your X deck to the graveyard, and also your opponent sends 2 monsters from their X deck to the graveyard as well, which is a really cool effect to be able to use because you can actually send cards like Herald of the Arclight of this card's ability so you can get searches, you can send Elder Instinct to be able to pop cards on the field, or even copies of, say, Garua to be able to draw cards off this card's ability, which is just really good. You can use any combination of those 2 to get 2 effects, which is just really amazing, making this card a definite 2 of in the build. We then play a single copy of the Iris Sword Soul. This card is really good in deck because her attack equals her own defense, which works extremely well with their copy of our Despian Lulu, which is just super cool. This card is actually an amazing card to be able to play in the deck as a one of. We then play a single copy of Incredible Ecclesia. Incredible Ecclesia is really good as a one-up in this particular build, because if your opponent controls more monsters than you do, you can special summon this card from your hand, and it also has the ability during the main phase, quick effect, you can tribute this card to be able to special summon a Fallen of Albaz from your hand or deck, which is a really good effect because you can actually quick fusion summon during your opponent's turn, because if you special summon out a copy of Albaz during the opponent's turn, you can make a really powerful boss monster like a copy of Mirror Jade, which is really amazing in this particular build. We then play a single copy of Fallen of Albaz. Fallen of Albaz is a definite one of in the build because it goes along with the lore, and it also works extremely well with your copy of Incredible Ecclesia because you can actually fusion summon during your opponent's turn, because during the main phase, Quick effect, tribute this, summon out Fallen Volbaz, discard a card, and then fusion summon away an opponent's monster special summon from the extract to make a copy of Mirror Jade, giving you a really powerful boss monster on your side of the field. We then play 3 copies of Diviner. Diviner is really good as a 3-of in the deck because this card is just amazing that if it's normal or special summon, you can send a fairy monster from your deck or extract to the graveyard, and if you do, increase this card's level by that monster's level that was sent to the graveyard, so you're usually going to send a copy of Herald of the Arclight to the grave, so you can actually get a search, which is a really good effect for this card to have. We then play 3 copies of Nightmare Corruptor Ibly. We're playing Ibly in the deck so we can actually Ibly lock our opponent, which is just really amazing. It makes it really difficult for our opponent to deal with this card and pretty much locks them out of the extract. You always want to summon your cards in defense position with this deck or end with all of your monsters in defense position so that your opponent cannot attack with this card into one of your monsters and destroy it. But it's really good because when this card is normal summon, you can target a link monster in graveyard and special summon it to your side of the field so it points to this card, but changes attack to 0, also negate its effects, and you cannot special summon monsters except link monsters to your side of the field, which is the main effect we're using on this card, because if this card in its owner's control is sent to the graveyard, you can actually special summon this card to your opponent's side of the field in defense position. So we can say normal summon this card out to our side of the field and then link it away for an Alamirage, which is amazing, which is going to give us a monster on the field, special something extract, so then we can summon out our copy of our Ecclesia, and then we can actually use our copy of Alamirage's ability to tribute itself to protect our copy of Ecclesia, and then we can, if we have, say, Maximus in our hand, banish the copy of the Alamirage from the grave to summon Maximus to our side of the field, and then use Maximus's ability to be able to send a ritual spell or be able to send a copy of a Herald of Arclight, 2 Herald of Arclights to the grave, so that we can then get a double search, so we can search Albazoa and a ritual spell, so that we can summon out Albazoa to our side of the field, with just basically a copy of Ecclesia and a copy of our Ibly in the hand, which is just super amazing about this deck. This deck is crazy powerful. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom's really good in this deck as a 3-of, just to stop your opponent from touching the deck, and it's a really amazing card in this build. So, that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start off with a single copy of Branded in Red. Branded in Red is really good in this deck if you get a copy of your Fallen Volbaz in the grave, and you need to be able to fusion summon into a boss monster during your opponent's turn. There's some really cool combos in the deck with this card, and I absolutely love this card as a 1-of in the build. You can also set this card to your side of the field extremely easily with your copy of Albion, and there's a bunch of ways to get Albion into the grave with this card. We then play 2 copies of Dogmatic Calamity. This is our main ritual spell that we're going to be using in the deck, and I really love playing this card as a 2-of, because this card almost works like a copy of Nekroz Kaleidoscope if you guys have ever played Nekroz. This card can be used to ritual summon any Dogmatic or ritual monster you want, but you must also tribute monsters from your hand, field, or it has the ability whose total level equal or exceed the level of the ritual monster that you're attempting to ritual summon, or send a monster from your extra deck to the graveyard whose level equals the level of the ritual monster, which is really cool because we actually just got an awesome level 12 that we can use to summon out Albazoa, which is just super cool about this card. This card just gives you so much value, and it's just a really awesome card to be able to play in the deck. We then play 2 copies of the other Dogmatika ritual card. This card is just really good as a 2-of in deck to help you ritual summon out your monsters to your side of the field. We then play 3 copies of Nadir. Nadir is basically the Rhoda for the deck, but Rhoda with some amazing bonus effects that you send a monster from your extract to the graveyard, then add a Dogmatika monster or Fallen Volbaz from your deck or graveyard to your hand that has attack less than or equal to the sent monsters in the graveyard. But it locks you out of the extract for the rest of the turn, which a lot of cards in this deck do, which is not that big of a deal because we don't summon from the extract all that often anyways, because our main boss monster is in the main deck. But this card is really good to combo with a bunch of cards in our extract so we can get bonus effects. We then play 3 copies of Dogmatika Matrix. Dogmatika Matrix is a definite 3-of in the build, and this card is just super powerful in the deck that when this card is activated, you can add a Dogmatika Ritual monster or a Dogmatika Ritual spell from your deck to your hand. Then if your opponent controls a monster, you can add a Dogmatika card from your deck to your hand as well, which is a really awesome effect. And once per turn, if you control a Dogmatika Ritual monster, you can look at either player's extract and send a monster to the graveyard, which is great because you're going to get bonus effects off the cards we send from our extract to the graveyard graveyard, or we can get key combo pieces out of our opponent's extra deck, which is just so cool. We then play 3 copies of an extremely spicy tech card in this deck, and that's going to be 3 copies of Duality. Duality is an amazing 3-of in the deck. This card is so powerful, it lets you tribute a light or dark monster to be able to special summon out a light or dark monster from your hand or X deck with the same original type and level, but a different original attribute. So for example, if you tribute a copy of a light monster, you can summon a dark monster. If you tribute a dark monster, you summon a light monster. Usually we're tributing a light monster to summon out a dark monster, and this card is also got a great ability. During your main phase, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target 1 light and a dark monster in your graveyard, shuffle them into the deck, and then draw a card. But a really cool thing about this card is you can actually tribute a copy of either your copy of Maximus, the copy of the Sword Soul Iris, or a copy of Fleur-de-Lis to be able to summon out Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, which is so powerful that this card gives you instant access to a Dragoon in this deck so you can have a negate, which is just really amazing about this card, and I absolutely love this card in the deck as a 3-of. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to start with a single copy of Dogmatika Punishment. You really only need a single copy of this card because it's so searchable in the deck. It lets you pop a monster on the field and then send a monster from your X deck to the graveyard with higher attack than that monster, which is really good to be able to do because you get to target a face-up monster your opponent controls and then send a monster with equal or higher attack from your X deck to the graveyard, and if you do, destroy that monster, which is great to be able to use in the deck because you can pop monsters on the field while also getting cards out of our extra deck. We then play 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Impermanence is really good as a 3-of in the deck, just to stop your opponent's monster effects, and it's a definite 3-of in the build, especially since you can set it face down and lock down entire columns of spells and traps. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to start off with 2 copies of Despian Lulu. This card is never usually going to be summoned in the deck. You summon it every so often in this build because you do have access to do so with your copy of your Incredible Ecclesia, because she is a tuner monster and you have a couple of level 8s in the deck. But this card is a great ability that when it's on your field once per turn, if a card leaves the X deck except during the damage step, you can make all monsters that you currently control gain 500 attack points permanently. Then you can negate the effects of one face-up card on the field until the end of this turn. And during the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was sent there this turn, you actually get to special summon a light spellcaster monster from your hand or deck whose attack equals its own defense, which is the main effect I actually use on this card because there's so many ways to get this card into the graveyard to be able to special summon a spellcaster that equals its own defense with its attack. So you can special summon out, say, a copy of the Sword Soul Iris, or even special summon out a copy of Incredible Ecclesia so you can summon out Albaz during the opponent's turn, which is really cool. We then play 3 copies of Herald of the Arclight. This card is great because if it touches the graveyard, you get to search out a ritual monster or ritual spell. We play 2 copies of Elder Intinist. Elder Intinist is really good in this deck because this card helps you out a lot in this build to be able to pop cards on the field. I absolutely love this card in the deck, and it's just really, really powerful. We play 2 copies of Dusk Dragon. Dusk Dragon is really good in this build because this card has a great ability that if it's in the graveyard, you actually have the ability to banish this card to be able to use the ability that you can banish from the field or grave to special summon a Dogmatika monster from your deck or Despian monster from your X deck, which you're usually just going to use the ability to special summon a Dogmatika monster from your deck. This card also is just really good in this build. We then play a single copy of Titaniclad. Titaniclad is really good as a 1-of in the build because this card is going to help you out a lot overall in this particular deck because of its graveyard effect. We can summon it off our copy of Albaz, which is just really, really good, but it's just an awesome card to be able to play in this build because it has an awesome ability. If this card's in the graveyard because it was sent there this turn, you can actually add to your hand or special summon a Fallen of Albaz or a Dogmatika monster from your deck, which is an insane ability to be able to use with this card. We then play a single copy of Albion. Albion's really good in this deck, and I absolutely love this card in this particular build because of its graveyard ability. If it was sent to the graveyard this turn, you can add to your hand or set a branded spell trap directly from your deck, which is always going to be a copy of branded in red you're going to set to your side of the field for this card's ability. We then play a single copy of Mirror Jade. Mirror Jade's really good in this deck as well because it's very easy to summon to your side of the field with your copy of your Fallen of Albaz's ability to fusion summon a monster that your opponent controls. That's a fusion Synchro, Exy, or Link monster to make this card, and it's just really good in this deck because you can also send cards like Titaniclad to the graveyard for its ability. We then play a single copy of Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. Red Eyes Dark Dragoon is great because it's a walking negate in this deck, and this card is just extremely powerful in this build. I absolutely love this card in the deck, and it's just such a powerful card in this build and helps out a lot in this deck. This card is super powerful and just really, really, really good. This card is just really nice in this particular build to help you just close out games and helps out a lot in this deck. We then play a single copy of Salaman Great Alamirage. This card is great to be able to link away one of your copies of your Ibly away when it's summoned to your side of the field so that you can actually lock down your opponent, which is just really good in this particular deck. I love that about this card, and you can actually get rid of it off the field, which is really nice by just tributing it, and it's just super cool because it's just a really good card in this deck. We then play a single copy of Lingaribo. Lingaribo is so we can also out the Ibly, which is really good in this particular build. I love this card in the deck, and it's just an absolutely amazing card. Another tech card you could play in the deck that I didn't have the room for was actually a copy of Garua. This card is a really good option for you guys if you want to play Garua in the deck over, say, a copy of Dust Dragon, but Dust Dragon was so good I ended up playing 2 copies of it in the build, and this card is just absolutely amazing in the deck. But again, you can play the copy of the Dust Dragon over it, or you can play a copy of Garua, whichever one you choose. I really like the second copy of Dust Dragon in this build, but it's an option for you guys if you want to go that route. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have never played a Dogmatika deck before, you should definitely give this deck a try because it's a super fun deck to be able to play to basically just control the board and deal with your opponent's extract. You can get rid of half your opponent's extract with your copy of Albazoa alone and then deal with the rest of it with a copy of your Maximus, which is just really amazing. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.